with my brother JT Mendoza. Me and JT were in OSI together, although we were never stationed together. We didn't do any cool deployments together. But one thing I love about your history and your story is that you became this guru of insider threat. And so we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But tell us your transition story, because it's not exactly like all the others that we've been talking about over the. I think we're on number 43 or something now of these posts. But other folks we've talked to didn't necessarily transition the same way you did. So tell us a little bit about that story. What helped you in transition and what hurt you in transition? Tell us about that.
Yeah, and again, thanks for having me, Scott. I really appreciate it, man. I think if I had to pick one thing out of everything, every formula I tried or whatever, right? The one thing that probably had the greatest positive impact, right? Whatever helped me the most was probably knowing, honestly, I guess not knowing, but reaching out to individuals like you, having mentors that had previously made that transition, right? And guys that were willing really to, look back and help somebody come up. You know what I mean? I think that was probably the biggest positive aspect. Reaching out to individuals, guys that, and I'll be honest with you, there's some guys I've never even met before, right? But like guys like Eric Bento
Yes.
on LinkedIn who like knows like 5,000 people.
That's right.
He and I got on a call once and spent about an hour where he was just providing me advice, on what the transition would be like, what it could look like, things that could come up, things that could be barriers, right? Especially I think from a law enforcement or military / government perspective, right? If there was probably, I guess, any negatives, I would say it would be probably the ability to articulate, in my opinion, some of the things that we do in law enforcement or the military, right? That at times don't translate well into corporate America. Or
Yeah.
I work for an
Especially
international.
what you did.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But I guess my transition, again, in my last position, wasn't necessarily a law enforcement position, but I was at the Air Force Insider Threat Program, helping to lead that program with just a great team down there. But transitioning from there into my role, again, I think it was just having, great people, man, great friends and mentors like yourself that, like you said, although we've never were assigned anywhere or did anything cool together, I mean, just meeting you and your openness and willingness to help somebody else out, was probably the biggest benefit.
Yeah, I think the first time we met in person was at GSX 2019.
Yeah. Yep.
That's not right. Yeah,
Yep.
last in-person GSX.
That's right.
Yeah, but it didn't matter to me, where you were so much as where you're going, and I see when we first started kind of connecting on LinkedIn, your value to the private sector I knew would be tremendous. Being at the Insider Threat Center and having that perspective, doing high-level government insider threat investigations and training and really consulting too. But I knew that the private sector needed folks like you who had that expertise. So now you've made this transition for almost a year, I guess, right? How did you find this opportunity?
Yeah. So, I'll be honest in that. I actually, someone sent me the job, right? It's again, a mentor who knew I was kind of looking, forwarded me the job and said, "Hey, what do you think about this? It sounds like a great opportunity. They're looking for somebody to head up a global program, right? For the organization." And I'll be 100% honest with you in that, I actually didn't think I was a good fit for the position, right? They wanted someone who was willing to travel like 50% of the time, wanted to be actually assigned either, up in the Northeast. I'm currently down in Texas, and they wanted someone, more towards the Beltway and kind of center of gravity, if you will, for the U.S. government. And so I actually started trying to help them find someone. And in the midst of us having that conversation, we continued to have the conversation about my sort of, like you said, my training, the things I've done. One conversation led to another. And then before you knew it, I was getting a job offer really to head up the program through some negotiating, obviously, about lower travel restrictions, right? And then had on top of that the pandemic.
Yeah,
So,
can't travel.
yeah, exactly. The company actually pivoting to a more remote workforce actually helped me. So, I mean, if there was any positive out of the pandemic, it's that, my company realized that we can have someone, although in a corporate position, can be living out of Texas, so to speak.
Great points. How did you prepare for this role? I mean, you'd never worked in the private sector before, so it's like, okay, there's this great company, and they want to talk to me about this really cool looking job. What was your prep like? Did you go out and talk to people, or how did you do that?
Yeah, I think like I said before, right? I think it was like talking to folks like you, Eric, other individuals that had just successfully made that transition, and just getting those sort of getting that advice and those recommendations that, hey, you can't use this type of terminology, or this translates better this way. I will say one of the biggest challenges probably that will face individuals really transitioning from the government or military or law enforcement transition into corporate is, and it was one of the things that sort of, I guess, was highlighted in is the lack of sort of corporate experience, right? So
Mhm.
there's a benefit to doing all these things for the federal government, local, state government, whatever you're doing, and you're getting a lot of experience and a lot of training and things that aren't available to the public
Right.
sector, right? But then, or to the private sector. But then when you transition into the private sector, they also want to see, well, do you understand, business, right? Do you have a, I'll be honest, I think one of the things that has helped me is I've taken some business courses, right? So I was enrolled in an MBA previously, although I didn't finish it because I hate math. But but those business courses, I would say those business courses and understanding sort of resourcing, right, manpower, those things. I think some of it, to be honest, also depends on the level of position you're trying to pursue, right? So if you're trying to get into the C-suite or you're looking for a senior level job, then you better understand resourcing, budgeting, manpower, those type of things, if that makes sense. But
Absolutely, yeah. And you didn't just learn through going to a class. You probably read a lot. Is there any kind of, what do you recommend people study kind of independently?
I'll be honest, man. I read a lot of Harvard Business Review, right? And
Right,
not just
great.
and not just I like the articles. I'm a subscriber. I read the magazines, obviously, right? But a lot of the I get the daily notices from them, and the leadership tips. And I'm just you're right. Actually am an avid reader, and I think that um, I've just always had this itch to want to know more, I guess, and so continually reading, learning, I've done some research into just business models, project management, that type of stuff, and just trying to self teach or kind of self taught, if you will. It's that again, I think um, for those of us, I think, who have been in the military, you realize there's some things you just have to do for yourself, right?
That's
Like
right.
there will be great individuals like you that are going to reach back and help you up, but if you're not willing to help yourself, you're just going to make it
Mhm.
that much harder on yourself. And so I think, at least from what I've noticed, now that I have successfully transitioned, right, kind of trying to follow your model, when I've reached back and talked to individuals that are looking for help, the guys and gals that I see that are willing to also do on their own certain things, or based on tips and advice I provided, it's just a lot easier to help those individuals, climb up the ladder, if you will.
Yeah, I like to, you got to set what's reality. This is the ground floor. This is what's real, and then get them in on. There's several different paths, but get them to understand that these paths are a little different than your government career or your
Right.
military life,
Yeah.
but here's where they are, and then kind of to your point, they have to be want to be self-taught. They have to be want to be direct themselves down this path. And I find that folks who do that appreciate what they're learning so much more, which is a great place to pause. And what I'll tease our next segment. We're going to talk about leadership because you're a leadership guru too, and I don't want to hear more about that. But if to the people who are watching it on LinkedIn, Make sure you comment below. I know JT will answer questions if you put them down in the comment section below. And be sure to share this with your partners. Don't go it alone in your transition. You're hearing directly from guys like JT and so many others that we've interviewed. Go into this experience in transition very humbly, but make sure you find a mentor and somebody to talk with you through it. That's the most important thing here. So thank you, JT, for being with us. Hang on for our next segment.
All right.